Welcome to the Erotic Entrepreneurs Mini Mastermind. I'm KamalaDevi. My pronouns are they, them. And the theme of today's journey is business as a spiritual practice. And I was meditating in preparation for our gathering, and I was getting a download around, what is it about a spiritual practice? Most of us here have deep, long-term spiritual practices and they're, non-dual, sacred, sexual, where our spirituality flows into our eros, into our sexuality, like fluidly. A lot of us have been cultivating that for many years, but where is it that our spirituality gets blocked around sales, marketing, money, spreadsheets, sales funnels? It's like, ooh, that's not spiritual. And so at the high level, we understand from non-dual, tantric philosophy, it's like, this is the life force energy and it's all God, right? It's like the sacred is in the profane as well. And so we understand that, we teach it, but then when it comes to a lot of times our sacred sexual energy moving into the world, we tend to like pinch off or contract when it comes to making a budget and actually creating Google ads, or and for reasons of the justification of like safety, and the world doesn't understand us, and and even those of us who are practicing in like a mystery school or in a coven where it's like, ooh, I want to be more on the inside of the inside. I want to do my work in the mystery, and I don't want to do it out in the 3D world. And there's still ways in which we sever. We say, okay, that's the 3D world, and this is the alchemical place where I work from. And we're here today to just explore how to drop that veil a little bit so that our spiritual energy can penetrate into the 3D form more. And so I've got a handful of teachings I'm excited to transmit. It's kind of along the theme of business as a spiritual practice. I have like 5 deep like truths that I want to explore with you. And so this is the agenda after we do a little invocation and prayer. So we're going to start with decentering, and then we're going to go into these 5 truths, and there'll be plenty of time for question and answer and really connecting with each other, which is something that we started off with, but we can continue towards the end of the call. And so again, I'll turn off the camera for that portion. But let's begin with just adjusting your body. Do whatever basic coming home practice you need to create more alignment. So good sounding, shaking, clearing the space around you so that you can come into the pelvis, maybe tilting the tailbone, deepening the breath, closing the eyes. And I invite you to place a hand on your sex, as well as a hand on your heart. And as you soften your breath, feel the pelvis fill. Feel the softening and the warmth of awareness coming into the pelvic bowl. And follow the ascending energy up through the central axis, all the way to the crown. Really feel the inside of the crown, like that space where the brain meets the skull. So let that fill with your awareness. As you exhale, you come down to the pelvic bowl. As you inhale, you rise up to meet the crown. And once you've grounded into your physical frame, Use the exhalation to drop down, extending through your grounding cords, tapping into the earth, moving through the multiple layers, driving deep towards the earth's core. Take a few breaths here, just connecting with the center of this glorious planet. And drawing this energy up through your roots, nourishing your frame, extending all the way beyond the crown, this time into the cosmos. So follow the next 3 breaths as you direct your awareness beyond our solar system into the core of what we know to be our galaxy. So allow yourself to feel in the direction of the black hole, the center of our galaxy. And then once you've touched into the frequency of that no thing, and you're drawing that dark energy in with your breath, come into the core, the heart of your being, the heart of humanity. So first coming into your own center, and then dissolving into the collective, opening the group heart with the next 3 breaths. Sounding and opening your eyes when you're ready. Coming back into the circle. And feeling that portal that the heart is, where it really connects us, to all of our guides and our allies, so that we get this sense that we're not doing this work alone. And I have this hit, I feel into the unique and powerful dharma that we all feel called, like we share collectively this desire to serve, like humanity's awakening towards their sexual energy, the power in their sexual and their eros, and that's not separate from our God force. And we're all doing that in our different flavors and our different unique expressions, but there is a collective intention there. And I know, just as we all know how powerful self-pleasure is, that like generating this erotic energy, cultivating it within the self is where it starts. I've recently become aware of how I can be in a circle of sexual healers, and we can all be like, yeah, I've dropped the shame, and I can talk about self-pleasure. I can self-pleasure in front of people, and I teach it. But a lot of times what's even more vulnerable than self-pleasuring is prayer, is, when I'm talking to God, when I'm talking to God in my body, I'm learning how to be less ashamed. But when I'm talking to God and it's everything, that's so intimate and that's so vulnerable. And, and I admit, like it's something that often we're like, I want to be in the depths of my solo practice to really be in that conversation with the divine. Like there's an intimacy like nothing else. And so I'd love to start our circle with a prayer. And the invitation is to invoke whatever source, that you are most intimate with. So as I do this, I invite you to use your entire body temple, use the channel that you are. And I've got a little candle here that I'm lighting on behalf of our collective souls gathering. And this is, to support us with business as a spiritual practice. Divine Spirit, Mother, Father, Earth, Heaven, God, Goddess, source energy from any and all names that we use to invoke, evoke, embody. We invite you to join this circle. We open our hearts and gather and pray that we may be in the highest service to those who are in our sphere of influence, whoever is called to our work. And we ask today that you help us release, remove, reintegrate our own resistance, our own blocks, demons, challenges, wounds, anything that's stopping us from our full expression, doing this work in the world. So the prayer is, as we work to help ourselves, that you be there and meet us on every step to help us be in our full expression, because we want to do this work on your behalf. And we want to see this work for the world, and we know we're instruments of that, and that we need each other's reflections and your support to step as fully into this work as you have planned for our full potential. It's with that intention we gather. Thank you, Aho. And take a moment to see if there's any additional silent prayers you want to add. Anything that you want to offer, to the fire. Anything personal and real that you're ready to let go of. Together we release that. Aho, thank you. So when I do any ritual, my first ingredient is always intention. And since we're looking at, as practitioners looking at the whole year, we started this series of erotic entrepreneur masterminds, and last time we met on the year of the Ox, the actual Chinese New Year, and we were really looking at like what would an extraordinary year look like in business, especially if we fast forwarded till Valentine's. That happens to be a really big business day. People are like, ooh, Valentine's, how do I upgrade my relationship or my love life? Or and so if we fast forward to 2022 and we say, what would make my work like really fulfilling, really expressed? And is it, I want to write more content, I want to take on more clients, I would love to be leading online groups, or maybe, because a lot of us are in this pivot place of our hands-on work is not as accessible. So what are other ways to expand our practice and also our message in the world? How do we leverage our message, getting it out there further? And so we all have an internal compass of like, oh, what are my next steps? What are not just my next steps, but like, what's the direction I want to expand in? And so I'd like to take a moment in a dyad where each person sets an intention, and it's just to be witnessed. So actually I'll do triads. And in this triad, you're in like a sentence to say, my intention for the year is, and it can be, because you've already done this work, it'd be super specific, like, I want to make 250,000 annual income in exchange for mutually beneficial session work, as well as group work, and selling of my new product. And that might be your intention, but it might be like, I don't know, I think I want to live on an intentional community, or like, this year feels like the year that I'm going to write that book. You know, what is the intention? And by setting this intention first right now, it'll make the other spiritual truths that I cover a lot more personal, a lot more, you know, support you to take your business specifically forward. So it's going to be a triad, and we're going to come back in 10 minutes. So it's kind of like 3 minutes each. If you have just 2 people in your group, if it works out that way, just divide the time. But you're really witnessing each other in what it is you want to create this year, as specific as you can be. So I'm going to go ahead and start the triads, and we'll be back in 10. And so in reflecting on our intentions, I'm curious if there's a harvest of, you know, anyone who had a big aha around just listening to your partners, or something you learned about yourself in the process. I don't want to necessarily hear your intentions right now, but I'm curious if there was an insight from just that. Who found that really easy? Raise your hand if you're like, I've done that, like, you know, this year in business, and I'm really clear on that. That's really easy for me. Good. Hold your hands up proud. That's great. You're doing the work. All right. And then who found that super challenging? Like, ooh, you know, actually putting it into words and having it witnessed, that's a challenge. Good. So we're all, and then who's kind of like, oh, that was a little stretch for me. Got a few people stretching, but for the most part, we're like all oriented towards what we're creating, which is wonderful, because we're, you know, the manifestation process starts with visioning. So that's important. And success studies have shown that really successful people, like, they write and rewrite their goals, and they speak them and they refine them, and that's a constant conversation. It's not like, ooh, I set my goals at this point and that's it. It's more like, no, I'm in that, I'm upgrading, I'm listening, I'm course correcting. And so it's important to be able to talk to our peers about what we're manifesting, because of course, just looking around this circle, there's a lot of people who could help us, like either network or put us in touch with resources that we don't usually have access to. And so it's really valuable to be in the conversation, because it tends to become more magnetic. So that's one of the, you know, first deep truths of the 5 that I want to share today. And the second is similar, that like, marketing is magnetism. Okay, so I want to talk about the stigma around marketing. And a lot of us, you know, are either artists or healers, and there tends to be this, like, you know, there's the craft, and then there's the merchant. Being the merchant is a whole different energy. And it's, you know, that marketing is somehow selling out, or it's somehow self, like, you know, gratifying, like ego promoting. And I have to say, this is kind of interesting, because I'm a really natural marketer. And by natural, I just fucking love what I do, and I talk about it all the time, and I have no, you know, I'm like, I want to tell people what I'm doing, and then that's marketing. And people feel like, some people who have a lot of judgment on that are like, you know, whoa, you know, that's a lot. And usually people's judgment on marketing, you may even check yourself and see where you have judgment on marketing. It's often because it makes others uncomfortable, because they're uncomfortable talking about themselves or their own work. So you shouldn't, right? So when we break this through this and we look at like, what is marketing? Because I've had like one of my mentors, one of my nearest and dearest, and I'm going to call him out by name, is Bruce Lyon, has totally admitted he's like marketing phobic. And he came up to me in one of our first conversations. He's like, I'm happy to meet you. He's like, but I have to clear with you that I have such judgment on you because you're American and you seem to be like have this glossy marketing. And it was really cool for him to say, I have this judgment on you. And for me to be like, okay, me to check and where am I in integrity about what I'm sharing and how I'm sharing about my practice. And to notice in me this place where I'm like, I want to dump, like play small or, like cover it. And then for me to go like, wait, that's his, he's clearing his issue. It's not a request for me to change how I'm being, but it is a request. And I think this is something we all have to do if business is our spiritual practice, to constantly go, okay, is this coming from who I am? Do I know who I am? And am I being that in the world? Because that's where marketing gets really magnetic. It's like, wait, this is true. This is coming from my values. This is what I want to offer. This is what I want to put out in the world. And then people can judge or not judge or critique, or, it really doesn't matter. It's like, I believe in what I'm offering, so I'm putting that out. Now, granted, it's another whole conversation with Zesta Fosta where we're like, okay, I can't market, or I have to change my marketing entirely because of the legalities of, whether it's sex work or even in the gray area of sexuality. And, and there's nuanced, savvy conversations that we could have about how to better, share offerings and that there is an outer marketing, a marketing that's like, okay, what is my branding? What is my message? What is my copy? Where am I choosing to market? And that's different than the inner marketing, which is like, okay, well, how am I getting the word of mouth out? Who am I asking for referrals? And, what are the conversations that I'm having? And it's still marketing. If I'm at a cocktail party and I'm telling people that, I particularly love to work with sexual trauma or sexual abuse. And if you know anyone who has this, let them know that I'm offering, an initial session or I'm starting my practice and a new practice, and I'd love to build clients. So if you know anyone that has had sexual abuse and wants to have some hands-on work with me, send them my way. Like that's marketing at a cocktail party. But the point about marketing is magnetism works when it's aligned with your core, right? And magnetism, like if it's not, there's a repulsion. There's like ooh, that's not really me. It's not authentic. It doesn't feel good. And so then you don't expand and you don't pull. So we want our messaging about our work in the world to be aligned with who we are. And in all honesty, it's often trial or error. Like sometimes it's like we don't know until we try this and we go, okay, that missed the mark a little bit. The worst though is where people are like, I'm afraid to miss the mark, so I'm not going to say anything and I'm going to play small. And then my services, my gifts in the world aren't getting out there. Yeah. So in terms of, the messaging, like what are you actually saying in your marketing? I want, as a brief takeaway today, because there's a lot of layers of like, hey, I want to offer my heart. I want to offer, like, if you're generous in your marketing and you're giving of yourself and your teachings, then that's actually one of the most, that generosity by law of reciprocation will get repaid. Like you're bringing value to the world in your marketing, then value comes back, and just for the integrity, it's like, here I am offering a free Erotic Entrepreneurs Mastermind because I want you to get value on it, whether or not you choose to do my year-long love leadership course. Like, I genuinely want you to get from it. It's an act of generosity, but by giving this, I know I'll get back a lot more clients than if I didn't do this, right? Like, it's a pretty tangible example. And you want to ask yourself in your business, okay, well, where am I giving? Where can I give more? And to do that freely, to give that out there in marketing as a marketing way of, and then the universe will reward me for putting my work out there. Okay, so I'd love, before we move on, to talk about the sales funnel is actually my next point. I want to know if there's any other questions or comments on the topic of marketing. Yes, Sarah.
I think for me, in this group, I can say, like, I'm a sex shaman and I work with sexual healing. But if I say that on the internet, most people have no idea what I'm talking about. So for me, it's kind of difficult to speak the language, and I think you do that beautifully. And I really admire your capacity to say so complex things in such a beautiful way. So I think that's a skill I still need to, upgrade to talk the language.
Yeah. So what I want to offer all of you in response to that, we started off today our icebreaker by saying, what is the problem that your clients are having? And I want to suggest that you start there, that sex shaman is a term. It happens to be one that's like emergent right now, right? Because we just published this book and the field is kind of gathering some synergy around this. But when I started the work, it was like, what, I was a dakini. What the fuck is that to most people? Like, a dakini? What is that? Like, now we understand that word barely, which, by the way, like, from its Tibetan lineage is a really scary thought. A dakini is like this fierce fucking skin-walking force that comes through like and takes over. And so it's hard to express and transmit something by label. So regardless of what you call yourself, if you start and say, how, write this down, these are the magic words. How, and I'm going to use, Sarah, some of your clients. You said that particularly you're working with the queer community, and there's a lot of your clients are working through their gender dysphoria. So you might say, how some people don't recognize themselves in the gender binary, and they feel alienated by not just the body they're in, but the reflections they're getting and the social roles that they have. Well, what I do is support people to get really in touch with the full spectrum of who they are, and to empower their gender expression, and to heal their programming around gender so that they can be themselves in the world, or whatever it is that you do. But if you start with how all the unconscious touch that we have in early sexuality creates numbness as a defense system, so that sometimes our sacred spots or our yonis or even our breasts don't feel anything, just goes numb. You know how that happens? Well, what I do is, and then that's the second part, which is, now what is it that you do? You help reconnect people to, the activated life force, or, to shake off layers of trauma and defenses, or to, get them back in touch with their erotic innocence. So those two words, the how and the what I do is, are two parts of the 3-part formula that I'm going to give you for not just cocktail conversations, but also in your sales copy, also on your web pages, also just in conversations when people don't know what the hell it is that you do. You can say, this is the problem that I see in the world, and this is what I'm showing up to try to, solve or illuminate or re-empower people around. Ready for part 3? I would love to work with you, or do you know anyone who would like to work with me? But this is the invitation part. Part 3 is, take my card, or can I get your email address so that I can send you more information about it? Or if you want, I have a free checklist or a handout or some way in order to stay in touch and deepen the conversation. Because I recognize that the work I do can't be encapsulated in a little elevator speech. Like, yay, if this interests you, let me give you more information. Let me get your contact information. Can we have a conversation? So we want to, whenever we're marketing, have a call to action that actually furthers the conversation. And so your marketing's not complete. Just telling people what you do, great, thanks, next. It's not complete unless you actually extend the invitation and capture the email and then start a relationship. So any questions about this 3-part? And it's actually, I usually teach it as an elevator speech, but it can be used anywhere. Does anybody, because I know we worked with this in the last Erotic Mastermind, does anyone have an example of a very brief use of this elevator speech they want to run by the group? Bold volunteers who want to try it on. And it's okay to be messy with it.
I can give it a try, but I have to admit that I'm just a terrible Zoom participant. So can you remind me of the structure just real quickly?
You know how, problem. Well, what I do is very quickly your solution. And then would you like more information? Here's how to contact me. Great.
Okay. You know how people think they can just open their relationships and have a great old time and they end up having all this drama and chaos in their relationships? And then what's the next one?
Well, what I do is...
Well, what I do is I help them create a structure of communication and love and support so that they can have passionate, joyful, open relationships full of integrity. Would you like my website so you can find out more about me?
Excellent. Wonderful. And the only little tweaky upgrade for everybody is that we always, instead of saying, here's my website, we always want to capture their emails. Okay, because we are the ones who it's almost like you scatter seeds out into the wind and they just blow around, and some of them may take, some of them don't. But if we capture the seeds, we can actually plant them and tend to them and water them and cultivate them, right? We're building relationships. So I'm going to actually take this opportunity to ask everybody in this call to type your email into my chat box, so into the personal message directly to me, or if you want to give it to the whole group because you want to stay in networking connection with everyone, you're welcome to put it to the whole group or to me privately. But I'm asking for your email so that I can follow up and say, let's have our next step. Let's have a discovery call to see if we're a fit for the love leadership, right? So I'm putting the group out, I'm putting the invitation out there, like spreading the seeds, but I am also capturing, and I want to cultivate a relationship with each of you. Okay, excellent. So this takes us, this actually is an example of the sales funnel. And so many of you may have studied this in business classes or webinars, or even on YouTube. You can see tons of them, but it's not often that you see it tailored to sacred sexuality and towards, spiritual holistic practices. So I want to speak about the sales funnel in a radical new way. And by the way, I just want to see a show of hands of those who are familiar with the typical sales funnel. So I know ClickFunnels made it really popular. Good. So more than half of us have been exposed to this, and I'm going to add a new twist to it that's actually pretty unique to our worldview. Okay, so a sales funnel, if you think about, and I kind of drew this, I'm just going to hold this up so you can see it and I'll explain it in a moment. If you think about a funnel, it's like it's got a wide brim to capture, and then it comes down and it kind of narrows into the most select. And what we're pointing towards is people either buying a product or a service or a consultation, or what we're asking is that they, at the end of the funnel, it's like those are your raving fans, your deepest clients. At the top of the funnel, it's just your sphere of influence and people, like your visibility, your list. So I'm going to show you, like at the top here, and I'm doing this old school. I could probably do, show you screens, but I just jotted this down. So you've got the widest part is your visibility, your exposure, and your sphere of influence. Now, most people, everyone if you say, hey, I've got a free offering, give me your email, that is the gateway to get them into the funnel. So when you have someone's email, whether it's from a cocktail party or from your website, that's then now they're captured in a conversation with you, and you want to nurture them. Now, for many people here, when we're, especially with the sex work or escorting as a model or background, it's often like, look, a lot of the people come and they're not interested in maybe the information or the conversation. They just really want, the deeper session or the hands-on work. And what's valuable about this is that it says, hey, if down here we have the deepest like intimacy and the most access to me, then that's what should cost the most, right? So I would love, many of you already have a high, kind of high-end client model where it's like, wait, I take a client, maybe it's $2,000 for, whether it's, like an intensive or an afternoon, or maybe it's a retreat, but it's like, I already want the high end. And the idea behind the sales funnel, especially as, pandemic has hit, is that the more engagement you have with people, the more it increases their chances of actually investing in the higher end product, because they've had an introduction, they had a positive experience, they bought something from you that was at no big expense for them, and they got a lot of value, and then they want more value. And then, so you're now doing this dance to get them to a place where they're like, yeah, I definitely want to have a deeper immersive experience with you. And had you asked them, or even put an advertisement at the beginning when they have no experience of getting value from you, then it's often like met with a no. And the other piece about this is that sales studies have shown people need like a repeated, it's almost like it plants in their brain, like Nike has this study that says people don't buy Nike or any big brand name until they've heard that brand like 7 times. Like if they hear you once, they need to know, are you reputable? Do you have like, who are you? What are you about? But if they're following your Instagram, if they're following your YouTube, if they're, then they kind of have a sense of like, oh, that's someone I can trust, or that's someone I align with, not just a spontaneous hit. So I mentioned, like the free part, and up at this free area, what is the content that you're offering for free? Like, is that YouTube videos? Is that Instagram posts? Is that, what is the, hey, I want you to subscribe at that free level? And then there's this like $20 mark, which is, maybe you have an ebook for $3, anything up to $20. It might be a $9.99, like have a, be in this little, my inner circle group, Patreon pages. I know I was talking with one of you about how there's different kind of buy-ins. And so anything under $20 is considered kind of pocket change. So a lot of people are like, oh yeah, let me I'll save a cup of coffee, I'll buy this. Like they don't have a problem investing it, but the fact that they've invested with you gets them closer to a deeper experience. And that deeper experience might be like, oh, let me do a $30 or $50 admission for just a group call, which might lead to a private session, which is often over $100. That's the next tier. And there's like a psychology behind the price points. So $99 is like, now someone's invested. But if it's up to $99, they're kind of like, oh, I don't need to check in with my partner or my finances. I could just spend that. It's considered a little bit more spontaneous. Whereas if somebody is going to put more than $99 in, there's a little alarm that might go off going, is there guaranteed? What's the, what am I getting for that? It's a different kind of filter. And so there's that session. It's usually over $99. And then anywhere up to like $500 takes you into the next level, which is really kind of your deeper or higher paid clients. And so this model, which is, like I said, very, very common, very familiar, is flawed. In that, in order to get people into the funnel, you have to keep you have to do the work to keep capturing and putting people in. And then what happens at the bottom is like, it stops there. And we as, 5-dimensional beings who work with energy know that like, there's a whole other inverted Taurian energy that comes in and goes out. And just as we were doing the meditation at the beginning, it's like, we are these Tauruses. And when people have a deep experience, at the deep level of intimacy, those are the people who ripple out into the world and create change and more awakening, which then actually comes back to us. And it comes back in the form of referrals. It comes back in the form of like, ooh, I've got testimonials, or let me introduce you to someone, or like, just the synchronicity of it. And we want to be in touch with the whole, not just the funnel, but the whole Taurus system. And that's part of like the deeper inner work of like, how do I set my funnel up so that it's not just evergreen and generating, but that all of my conversations or my being or who I am in the world is magnetically drawing people into this natural energy matrix where people are coming into closer access or wanting more intimacy with me, and I'm bringing a lot of value to them, and then the universe is, I'm in this reciprocal relationship with the universe. So I'm being valued for the value that I'm bringing into the world. Okay, so that's the, when I look at business as a spiritual practice and I look at the sales funnel, that's a transmission I want to give. And I want to see if there's any questions or comments about that.
I have, this made me think of a series I just started, which is around my book, Eros, The Wisdom of Love, that just came out for the first time in Italian after 14 years from its first publication in English. And it's a series I'm offering for free. But I feel that a lot of people in this group would like to tell me about their stories privately. So I'm thinking maybe I could evolve that and saying, hey, you want to tell me your stories? You can do that for, I'll give you 1 hour or 2 hours of my time just to listen for a fee, because that way they would also have more investment in discovering the uniqueness of their life stories. It just came out to me when you were talking, Kamala.
Gorgeous. So what I'm hearing is that you feel mused around, hey, I'm putting this offering out, my new book in Italian, and then I've got this other additional, like I could also package this other offering that's adjacent to this.
Yeah.
And I love this example because it's, we should all look at ways in which we are producing some piece of content, and how do we repackage and repurpose that piece. So there's this content and here's an adjunct and here's something related to it and here's something else, because at the end of the day, that's part of the blessing of the pandemic too. If we had one offering and that stream dries up or changes, what about diversifying our offerings? And then the people that I capture into my list can have new access to new stuff that's coming out. So yeah, it's very important to feel how else can I possibly bring value to my clients, and to be in that question all the time, like, how can I bring more value, added value, more products or services, or and that's a conversation to be having in community, like, because we can muse each other. Any other comments or questions from the sales funnel?
Yes, KamalaDevi, I wanted to kind of get more of an understanding of how the sales funnel doesn't work. Like an example of how you were saying that it's limited compared to having a toroidal sort of give and receive continuation.
So part of the doesn't work is if we're looking to just get people into this, like, I just want to buy this product, and this is where people start to see clients as money signs, or oh, I meet another human, like, here's someone with the God force energy in them, and I'm now seeing them as a dollar symbol. I just want them to buy this product, and it stops there. And that's broken. That's actually not how nature works. When nature fruits, the overflow falls to the ground and fertilizes for more fruit. Like, you want to be in the natural flow of this relationship, then brings so much value into their life that they're rippling out to their community. And we all want to be leaders in our communities, like innovators, leaders, individuals who are modeling this awakened God-forced energy. And we do that by bringing value into the world, giving it unconditionally, but also really knowing that as we give and the world gets from that, the world also gives to us. Like, there is a reciprocal energy field around all of the sales that we do. So we don't want to just think about these clients, ooh, how can I get them into my funnel? And then the energy stops there, because we stop there. Like, that is a bottleneck in our own energy. We want to actually open to, well, what more partnerships, or how else, like the very clients that I've worked with, a lot of my, it's a beautiful example, because I'm on this call with a number of apprentices who have mentored with me, and then they go to be like, oh, and I'm creating a new festival, and I want to host you, or I want to bring your work here or there, and it continues beyond me and through their communities. And so that they're all leaders in their own community, and I'm, part of that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's very clear. Thank you so much. Great.
Okay, so looking at the time, I'd love to move on to our last 2 points. So when I look at the spiritual practice that is business, and I look at a deep truth about what spiritual practices thrive and expand, they're usually ones that have strong fellowships. They're ones that have, you go to church because you practice, like, where 2 or more are gathered, the Holy Third is available. And there's something very powerful about doing your business with others, in the same way that whenever we meditate, like being a solo practitioner, meditating, there's alone, or meditating with yourself is so important, just as self-pleasure is, but it's so much more fun, to do meditations with others, and to run your Eros with others. And it's just as fun to run your business with others. And we live in a culture where, just like self-pleasuring and praying, talking about your annual income or your debt or your investments is total taboo. We need to break through that taboo by having community, by having tribe to talk about these things, to like raise our vibrations. To only with tribe can we see into our own shadows, see into the places where we're most stuck or stagnated, or where we're actually believing the illusions of our own limiting beliefs. And so, whether it's my mastermind or your own Sangha or your friends and lovers, like find people with whom you can talk about your business.